So this is the cosmos that I started in the early spring. This is a double click mix. I'm only growing double click cosmos this year because cosmos doesn't really do very well in my climate. It gets too hot here and this just turns crispy and brown. So I only really get nice flowers from it right at the beginning of the season. So I planted it early and was planning on having it out, but this is going to go where the sweet pea is in my allotment. Now my allotment is only 4 meters by 5 meters, so I am really stuck for space and I've got to wait for one thing to finish flowering before I can get the next thing in. And my sweet pea have only just started. I don't even think they've hit their stride yet. So it's way too early for this to go in, but I don't want to have to leave it in here any longer because it really is too big. So I am going to get this potted on and then I am going to pinch it. As you can see, I have one big stem with a few, it's starting to get a bit bushy up at the top, but I really want this to be bushier from lower down to give me lots of long stems with lots of flowers on it when I do finally get this in the garden. So I'm going to put it on and I am going to pinch it. For anyone that doesn't know, my name is Peggy and I am in my 3rd season of growing a cut flower garden here on my allotment in Kanagawa Prefecture, Japan, which is just south of Tokyo in USDA Zone 9B. Thanks for checking out my channel. So in an ideal world, this is the perfect size for me to be planting it out into the garden, and that's what I would like to be doing. But like I say, I just don't have the space yet to do that. So I'm gonna have to leave it in pots for longer than I would like to. And because I'm doing that, I'm gonna put it into this potting soil, which is a special mix for flowers as it does contain some flower food and some fertilizer. So there is gonna be a little bit of nutrition in this soil mix to help this stay in the pots just a little bit longer. And hopefully that will keep it nice and healthy for me. So as always, I have pre-mixed my soil. I've put it in here and I have already added water, so it is nice and damp for these guys to go into. Just makes it easier to plant into at this stage. And I have half filled my pots and just left a little hole in there so that these guys can just slip right in. Let's get potting on. Okay, so you can see I've had these guys sitting in water to make sure they've got had a nice drink. They are starting to come through. They're not root bound yet. The roots have just started to come through. So I think we're still okay timing wise. But I've given these guys a nice drink. They've been sitting in there for a couple of hours. So they should be nice and hydrated for moving into their new wee pots. Came out nicely. This one has 2 in one cell, so I'm going to try and separate out the roots. There we go. Okay, so cosmos is a branching plant and it's a cut and come again plant, which means the more you cut off of it, the more flowers you're going to get. It just keeps pumping out more and more and more flowers the more you cut. If you let it go to seed too quickly, then it'll stop producing flowers for you. So it's important that you keep this one cut. It's also the kind of plant that you can pinch out. Now when you pinch a plant, it literally means just cut the top off it. And where you cut off the main growing stem in the center, instead of it being one stem, it's going to put out 2 big side branches here, and you get twice as many flowers off of those side branches. Now these are quite leggy because they've been sitting in for a while, which is not ideal, but it's what I have to work with, so that's what we're going to go for. So usually you would want to cut off about 10 centimeters of this plant. Now I don't have quite that much because they are quite so leggy and I don't want to take it back to just one set of leaves. I want to go for this higher set of leaves here. So I am literally going to take this, come down to the second set of leaves with my snips. Gone. It feels like a really weird thing to do, to just spend so long growing your plants and then behead them and take them off. But it will result in a stronger plant and a bushier plant and more flowers for you. So pinch your cosmos. Let's do the rest. Okay, so that is everything potted on and pinched. And hopefully that'll give me nice big bushy plants when I come to plant them out once my sweet pea have finished. But for now, done. Okay, so it's now been 6 days since I pinched my cosmos, and as you can see, they are already starting to put out little side branches. Here they come. One. There's another. And this one's got quite big side branches on already. That's after just 6 days. Okay, so now that I have these guys pinched off, they've started to grow really nice new branches coming up. I have decided to get them out in my garden, because in my allotment garden, because they are really not liking it in my garden. The mosquitoes are going mad. It's about to rain and they've gone mad. They're really not liking it in my garden at all, and so the quicker I can get them in here, the better. Now the plan was to put them over there where my sweet pea are, but my sweet pea are still blooming and I don't want to be ripping them out quite yet. I'm not sure if I like my sweet pea, but that's a whole other thing. I don't want to rip them out yet, and I've ended up with this little space right here between my rudbeckia and my statice that I've planted out. I've actually ended up with about, I'm going to say about 60 to 70 centimeters here. Now this was space that I had for my aster, and I seeded my aster, but it was with old seed and it has not germinated. Now I've had that a few times this year. I tried with my Chinese forget-me-not that I had leftover seed from, and all of my aster, and nothing has germinated. So I'm really finding, I'm guessing it is the humidity here and the heat, that no matter how well I keep them, the seed don't seem to do after a year. They're not coming up again. My phlox as well has done nothing. And that was all old seed. So I've ended up with this area with nothing to put in it. So I am going to go ahead and get this cosmos in. Now, as you can see, I only have 3 cosmos, and even this one's not looking very healthy. And that's because the rest of my cosmos look like this. And I wish I could say it was the heat or it was something natural, but it wasn't. It turns out that, unbeknownst to myself, my 3-year-old has been helping me water my plants and has been basically giving them a bath every day. And so these have died from overwatering. But I have reseeded into the same pot, and you can see I've got one seed coming up there and another one in there. And I'm actually going to go ahead and plant these out. Now you can direct seed cosmos, it's not an issue at all. So even though these are teeny tiny and haven't actually done anything, I am going to put them out anyway. Now all of the other ones that died as well, I have reseeded them. So if these guys don't take, I still have ones at home that I can put in. But for me, 5 cosmos is about right for the space that I have here. So I am going to go ahead and get these in the ground. It rained last night, so the soil's wet. The cosmos have had their bath from my child, and it's going to rain later, so I'm not going to bother watering these in or dampening them before I put them in or anything. But I am adding this, and these are worm casting pellets. It's something new that I'm trying this year, just to see if I can give them a bit of a jump and help with the soil. The reason that they're pellets is because my soil is so sandy, so I'm finding that when I'm adding stuff through liquid, it's just soaking away quite quickly. It doesn't seem to be making a difference. So I'm trying to see if the pellets will hold in the soil a little bit longer and give a little bit of nutrition for a little bit longer. So hopefully this will help these guys get a bit stronger. These mosquitoes, man. Seriously, get off my face. Okay, and that is my cosmos. Seriously, hiding from these. That is my cosmos all in, and that's all that I'm putting in this year. It's a lot less than I usually do, but I haven't had that much success because it's too hot here. Now, because I've still got the other stuff at home, hopefully if any of these do die back or they don't like being in here, I can switch it out and replace it. And I find that that's really important. The last 2 times that I've tried to grow cosmos, there have always been ones that have died, and I've had to replace them and replace them and replace them. So I've learned that you should always be growing more cosmos than you think you're actually going to need in the garden. can. And don't plant it all out at once. Keep a few just in case you do need to replace them later on. But that is all from me today. If you want to see how the cosmos and the rest of the garden does this season, then remember to hit the subscribe button below. If you want to see what I do with all of my flowers, you can check out my Instagram page, which is From the Witch's Garden, and there's a link to that below as well. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.